bright light. Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Can y'all hear me? Is that feeding at all? Jill, are we good? All right, awesome. You're great. Y'all keep getting the food. You're wonderful. So Luke normally hosts, and he's out of town on vacation, which is so good for him. So I got thrown into this. My name's Shannon Callies. I'm the Executive Office Manager and work on the business development team here at Exaptive. So we have a lot of new faces tonight. I don't know if anybody's interested in wanting to introduce themselves and kind of tell us a little bit about what you do and why you came tonight. Anybody want to? Totally don't have to. Yes.
I've never been before. My name's Ryan. I know there's another Ryan somewhere around here. Two Ryans. Okay, great. Good news. Recommended. I work for American Fidelity. I'm in the IT department.
Oh, awesome.
I do kind of a process type role of change management.
Awesome. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Anybody else? Totally don't have to. Totally cool. All right. So we do this meetup. It's called Data and Creativity. We do it every month. We focus on different things. I'm going to do a little reading here because I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. We talk about technical aspects of data and using it, and what we do in our jobs day to day. We talk about acceptation and action. That's another kind of focus for us here at Exaptive, with that being our word. We love to see how one technology can be used and translated to answer a problem in a completely different field. So that's when we also do nerdy movie nights. So every third month we do nerdy movie nights. We have beer and popcorn. Come back and hang out. And tonight we're focusing on the human component. So we have a really wonderful guest with us today, Michael, and he is going to talk to us about the frustration with products using cognitive psychology to better understand user goals. Michael has a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership from the University of Central Oklahoma and currently pursuing your master's in human-computer interaction at Iowa State University. He is a product manager of quality and evaluation products for CoreLogic and Mercury Network, where two of my best friends work. Very cool. And before that, spent 5 years designing and supporting software products and information services as a product owner and business analyst. So he does lots, and we're really glad that he's here tonight. So if y'all would please welcome Michael.
Hi, can you guys hear me? If you haven't already gotten one of these papers, I have some over here. I'll just start passing out some stacks. And we can use this as we're going through the presentation. Yeah, there's some. I don't know how to get the mouse to go away, so it may be going like that the whole time. We'll see. But today we're going to talk about frustration with products using cognitive psychology to understand user goals. As I mentioned, I'm a product manager at CoreLogic in their Mercury Network business unit, and I'm also pursuing a Master's of Science in Human-Computer Interaction as a distance learning student from Iowa State University. People ask me, what is human-computer interaction? It's the interaction between human and computers. It's that simple. There's a relationship there, but it's a very complex relationship. And HCI is a multidisciplinary field. And I listed some of the fields that it pulls information from: psychology, computer science, engineering, design, anthropology, sociology. But I'm mostly drawn to psychology. And things that I'm personally interested in is human factors research, and cognitive engineering. I found a really cool article. It may not be 100% accurate because I found it online, as you know, from US News, what can you do with a psychology degree? And in it, they made a statement that most people think of psychology as clinical, like clinical psychology is what psychology is about, but it's not. There's a lot of branches with psychology. And they actually listed a bunch of different areas of study on that article, which I found really interesting. And the one I gravitate towards the most is engineering psychologist. So if you're interested in looking at psychology and see all the different branches and different areas of opportunity, you should try to search that article. So today we're going to talk about meeting users' goals, but to understand users' goals, you have to understand the user and understand that they are a human and that we as humans have limitations, that our minds are designed in a certain way and to work in a certain way. I came across this really funny meme. I titled it A Funny Meme. And it says, I don't always remember what I walked into a room for, but when I forget, I still don't remember what I walked into that room for. How many of you can relate to this? Walking into a room, not remember what you went there for. What are your thoughts on that? Why do you think it is? Why do you think that happens? Yeah, you do, don't you? We're going to come back to this. Working memory or active memory is when you're doing something and you're working with certain pieces of information. And those are called chunks of information. And our memory can use about 4 chunks of information at a time before you start forgetting it. And after a few seconds, that information that you had, those 4 chunks, begin to disappear and you lose them. What is a chunk of information? A chunk of information is something unique. A piece of information may be something that you don't have memorized or haven't used before. So let's say I take a random phone number, 9781621. Each number there is a different chunk of information. But if you can associate information with other things that you've used in the past, then you can group that information, different pieces of information, and that becomes a chunk as well. For instance, you have the area code 405. How many of you are familiar with the area code 405? So if I were to give you my phone number, I said 405 and the rest, 405 is the easiest part to remember, right? That's because we're associated with that piece of information, and that 405 is a chunk. ABC, you memorize your ABCs when you were younger. So if I say ABC, that's one chunk of information for you. When you start having things that are similar in your memory, like 2 different phone numbers, you start getting them confused. Your mind gets them confused when you go to recall them. So if I said these 2 phone numbers and they weren't written on the board and I asked you to recall them, you may know some of the numbers that I said, but you won't know the order that I told you in because they're both in your active memory, but because they're so similar, your memory is getting them a little bit mixed up. And that gives you a really quick summary of how the active memory works. How many of you have used Instacart or Shipt or any other grocery delivery service? 1, 2. I use Instacart and I love it. And they delivered some groceries this past weekend, and my son, he used to hate helping me put the groceries away, but now he loves it. And I asked him why he loves it. He said because he likes to put them in a place where he can organize it, because he's an organizer. So we got some groceries delivered, and I told him, I said, come help me put the groceries away. He said, okay. He started carrying stuff, and he dropped one of the 2 jars of tikka masala sauce. You can't have Indian food with only a little bit of tikka masala sauce. You want to make leftovers so you can have some for later too. So after he dropped the first one, I was worried he was going to drop the second one, and then I couldn't have Indian food for dinner. So I set a rule for him. I said, let me put the glass food away, and you about things that aren't glass. So don't unpack anything that's in a glass container. So we start putting stuff away, and then a few seconds later, I heard him say, don't put away glass items. About 10 seconds went by. Don't put away glass items. A few more seconds went by. Don't put away glass items. I said, what are you doing? He's like, I don't want to forget. And that's how working memory is. You can have something in your memory for a few seconds, and then it goes away. But if you rehearse it, or you tell yourself it, and you really focus on that one thing, you can keep it in your memory, your active memory, longer. Long-term memory is different. It's where files get stored in your mind. And when they are stored, they're held in sequences of activities and events. So if you have similar events and you do it over and over again, you have a better picture of what that experience is. But you can also have something in your mind from a single experience, maybe something that you had a really strong emotional attachment to. In case you're wondering why I have a catfish on the screen, is to tell you a story about it. My grandpa used to take us fishing all the time when I was younger, and it was one of my favorite things to do with him, that and blackberry picking. He grew up in the country, so we always went and visited him. And he would take us fishing, and sometimes he would catch fish, sometimes he wouldn't. But at one time when he caught a fish that was good-sized, he'd remember it. And I'd hear him telling the story later, and I'd hear him say, yeah, that fish was 18 inches long, and it took me forever, and I kept reeling it in. It was hard to get in, but I finally got it. And he'd go on with the rest of the story about how it made him feel. He made him happy. He was happy to catch it. He filleted it. He cooked it. It was great food. He'd tell the story a little bit later, a few weeks later. Yeah, I caught a 22-inch catfish. And then he'd say, I brought it in. It was hard to reel in. I got it. The fish grew from 1 week to the next week. And then he'd tell the same story a few weeks later. He'd say it was 26 inches long. And I correct him. I'm like, you're lying. It's not true. He goes, no, I was there. I know how big it was. I'm the one that caught it. The thing is, he had an emotional attachment to that experience. And it was something that he really loved and really enjoyed. But with long-term memory, our memories are fragmented. We don't remember all the details. We remember certain pieces of it and we understand how it made us feel. We might remember some of it, but we don't always remember all the details. When you have experiences and you're learning, use it or you lose it. And one way not to lose it is to put that information or that knowledge in the world, so by writing it down. That's one way you can capture it. Mental models. Mental models are ways that we can store related information. And they are conceptual models in people's minds that represent their understanding of how things work. And we attribute causes to effects when it makes sense. So, the other day, after I put the groceries away, I had some bags that I wanted to toss. And to do that, I said, okay, I was thinking I'll go and put something in the trash can, put that bag in the trash can. I walked over to the trash can. I know how my trash can works. It has a pedal. I push the pedal, the lid comes up, and I can put my stuff in the trash can. I let go of the pedal, and the lid comes down. But this time, I pushed it, and the lid came up this way, partly on one side, not all the way up. I was thinking, what the heck is wrong with my trash can? Was my son messing with it and broke it or something, or what's going on? So I manually picked up the lid, and I know that if I push this, there's a mechanism in there that pushes a metal rod up and pushes the back of the trash can to make the lid open. I know how that works because I've used that trash can before. So I opened it up, and the first thing I did was I checked to see if the rod was messed up and if something's kind of out of place that it shouldn't have been. It didn't work. So I said, maybe it's hitting something against the wall. So I moved the trash can back. I pushed on the pedal. The lid didn't come up all the way. It came up half of one side again. I was like, why is this still not working? So I lifted the trash can up a little bit, and I realized that my son had a Lego stuck under the pedal. So every time I was pushing it, it was pushing that Lego, and that was making the lid only open up a little bit. So I knew that by the time I was done, all my things that I tried before, with my mental model of how I pictured that thing working, my mental model was correct, but my approach and how I went through that series of activities wasn't always accurate. I failed. I kept trying, but then at the end it worked. Let's play a memory game. I need a volunteer. Who wants to help me? Okay, we got somebody back here. Okay, what's your name? Okay, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And I want you to tell me what was the first thing that you did this morning when you woke up. Okay, that's the... Okay. Okay, so that's the first thing you did. You said to Alexa, shut up. What color shirt is the person on the left side of you wearing? Okay. You can open your eyes. You want to look to see what color shirt he's wearing? So I just asked him a question that was regarding his long-term memory, something he's done over and over again, something he's used to doing, something that is a file in his memory and stored away. What is the first thing you do in the morning? Because you typically do that over and over. He told Alexa to shut up. He knew that one. And then I asked him something about his short-term memory. What is the person next to you wearing? And he said it was a white shirt. That's because when we are looking around and doing things, we perceive what things are important to us. When we're perceiving the world, the things around us, things that are important to us, we keep in our memory. Things that are not important to us, we don't put in our memory. And that's why he didn't know the color of the shirt that you're wearing. Mental workload. When it comes to mental workload, easy tasks require few mental resources and can be time shared with other tasks. What that means is, if I'm doing something that I haven't done before and it's taking extra mental effort and I'm using my active memory to do it, if I'm doing multiple tasks that are similar or multiple tasks that are more challenging to me, I'm having a higher mental workload, and that can cause mental exhaustion. But if I'm doing something that I've done over and over again lots of times, it's really easy to me, like chewing gum. But I'm having a phone call with somebody at work trying to make really important decisions, and I'm having to think about it. That's okay, because I'm chewing gum. Chewing gum is something that's in your long-term memory. You've already known how to do it. It's a habit you've already done. It doesn't take a lot of cognitive effort, but making that decision, having that phone conversation does. If I'm on a phone call and I'm having a conversation about something really important, having to make business decisions, and I have the music playing next to me, I'm trying to hear the lyrics of the song, well, then my resources are competing with each other. Multiple resource theory is when tasks using the same resource interfere more with each other than tasks using different resources. What this is saying is that we do tasks in different ways. Some are auditory, some are visual. When you have something that is visual and auditory at the same time, those aren't competing with each other as much as if I'm trying to visually look at something, two different things at the same time. You know what an ambulance sounds like. How many of you have ever been driving down the road, you hear the ambulance or the fire engine, and you have no idea where it's coming from? Is it coming my way, or is it going the other way, or is it turning, or whatever? And then when we have the auditory sound happening, then we rely on our vision to figure out where is it at. And when we have our auditory sound, and then we look at it visually, and we put those two together, it paints a bigger picture of where things are. Another way to describe it is when you go outside of a big grocery store or Walmart or something, and you don't know where your car is. So you get your key fob out and you start beeping, and you hear it honk. You're like, hey, it's that way. No, it's coming from that way. But you can look at it and you can hear it, but until you actually see it, then you can start narrowing it down and figure out where's my car, because you're using those two different tasks. And that's multiple resources theory. So if you use your visual and auditory, it doesn't take as much resource. When we talk about goals, and I said all that stuff for a reason, by the way. I'm going to give you what that reason is. When we have our goals, there are two gulfs that I want to go over. One is the gulf of execution. It's trying to figure out how something operates. So how do I work this, and what can I do? And that mouse is really annoying. Sorry. It's distracting me. And then you have the gulf of evaluation, trying to figure out why something happened. And when something goes wrong, we place blame. Was it the system or me? So let's think. Trying to move it. Okay, let's think back to that trash can. How do I make this work? I know how the trash can works, but for some reason it wasn't working for me. So how do I do this? What do I need to do? So I pulled the lid open and tried to figure it out. Didn't work. What happened? Why isn't this working? Is this what I wanted? No, it wasn't what I wanted. So let's try it again. How do I make this trash can open for me? How do I make it work properly? So I put it against the wall to see if it was getting stuck. I pushed the lid. It didn't open. Why is this happening again? What can I do differently? I picked it up and realized that there's a Lego. So I went through the cycle a few times. I had that gulf of execution and a gulf of evaluation. When something goes wrong, when you're trying to do something and you can't, the first person that you typically blame is yourself. That's why when people use software products, you don't always hear about it until later on when people are really irritated because the people that were experiencing an issue the first time didn't want to call in because they thought maybe it was themselves having the issue, when really anybody using that software and experienced that bug in the software were experiencing the same thing. So tonight we're going to talk about Norman's 7 stages of action. And I passed out a sheet, a paper, just so that as we go through a couple examples tonight, you can easily follow along on the paper just as well as what's on the slide. So you've got your goal of execution and your goal of evaluation. With the 7 stages of action, you form a goal. Once you have a goal, you make a plan for that goal. You specify a series of actions you're going to take to meet that goal. Then you start performing those actions. When you do that, then you perceive the world around you to see what's the state at that point. When you have that state, you interpret it, and you compare it to the goal of what your original goal was. Take the trash can, for example. My goal was to throw away the trash bag. My plan was to go to the trash can and throw it away. I specified pushing on the pedal for it to open, then putting it in there. I performed an action of pushing on the pedal, and I perceived the state around me, and the state showed me that the lid would not open. I interpreted that there's a problem with it, and the problem may be that the inside wasn't getting pushed up all the way. So I compared what happened to my goal of throwing away the trash, and I couldn't. So I went through this cycle about 3 times just to get my trash thrown away. That's an example of the 7 stages of action. Don Norman wrote The Design of Everyday Things, and that's where I got the 7 stages of actions from. It's a great book. I recommend that you buy it and read it if you can. The author believes that most problems come from a lack of understanding human-machine interaction. And he said this about designers: we are people ourselves, so we understand people. And what he's saying is, from a design standpoint, if I go and design something and I know how to use it, my users should know how to use it. Is that usually the case? No, it's not. And he said this about engineers. I'm not trying to if anybody or piss anybody off at me. By the way, it's not me that said it. I put the name up there, Don Norman, so get mad at him. For engineers, if only people read the instructions, everything would be all right. He said engineers are very logical. If it makes sense, if it's logical, they should know how to use it. If they don't know how to use it, they can read the instructions, and it should make sense because it's logical. But here's what he recommends. He recommends abandoning our viewpoints and adopt the user's viewpoints and accepting people for who they are. And he wrote this book from a design standpoint, but I'm going to say that this doesn't only apply to designers. And I'll give you a couple examples at the end of why I don't believe that way. So why are we here? To understand users' goals and be equipped to help them reach their goals. Why does this matter? It matters because every day we all interact with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products. When you wake up in the morning, you're laying on a sheet. That's a product. Under that sheet is a mattress. That's a product. Your head is on a pillow. That's a product. You get out of bed, you're moving off the blanket, which is a product. You're stepping on the carpet, which is a product. You go and open the door, the knob is a product. The door is a product. The hinges of the door are a product. We interact with products on a daily basis, and there's times that we go through those stages of action, and we fail, and we try to do things over and over again, and we're constantly challenged. Let me give you this one example. I wasn't even going to bring it up tonight, but let me bring you this example. I went to 7-Eleven a couple of weeks ago, and I got a couple of cups of coffee, and one of the cups had a small hole in the back. And I filled it up with coffee all the way, and it wasn't leaking. I didn't see the hole. I went to grab the coffee, which made me grasp it a little bit hard to be able to pick it up, and the coffee started burning my hand. All of a sudden, my hand started shaking because it was really hot. Because this one was shaking, the coffee came off over the lid to the rest of my arm, and before I knew it, my whole body was shaking, so my other cup of coffee didn't have a lid, and it was coming all over my arm, and that was a mess, okay? That's a cup, a simple cup with one hole at the top. It should be able to be used easily, but it wasn't. I was frustrated with it. But when we add, computers and machines and software, it gets more complex because we don't really understand how those people don't always understand how to use them all the way. And when you get into different kind of designs, people may not have the same mental model as you. You know, if you are a designer or a product manager in your sales and you really know a product and you know it well, you expect people that are going to be using the product to kind of have the same understanding of it as you do, but they don't, because they don't have that history and they don't have that knowledge and they don't understand everything about it. Think of those that are older than us, right? My parents didn't start texting until a few years ago. They were not good with cell phones by any means. And anytime they tried, they got really frustrated because some of the basic things that we grew up understanding and using, they didn't know all that. They didn't have that experience. They didn't have the same mental models. So the controls and the buttons and the different things on the display that you and I would have been used to, they didn't know that. So when we're working with products, software or machines or any types of computers, just know that you've got different people with different models, mental models, and different experience, and they're being challenged on a daily basis. Back to the funny meme. Who wants to take a stab at it now? Anybody? Okay, let's walk through it together. I don't always remember what I walked into a room for, but when I forget, I still don't remember what I walked into that room for. I love that meme, by the way. I think it's hilarious. I only chose it because it was hilarious, then I kind of formed my whole presentation around it. Totally kidding, totally kidding. I do my homework upstairs. And sometimes if I'm sick at home and I need to work remote, I work upstairs. I was doing my homework one evening and I needed a pen. And getting a pen was my goal. My plan was to go downstairs to the kitchen drawer where there's a catch-all of pens and papers and pennies and everything else. Don't act like you don't have one of those drawers, those catch-all drawers. We all have one. Mine happens to be in the kitchen. My plan was to go down there, go down the stairs, open the door, and grab a pen. So I made my plan, and I specified it by going downstairs and opening the door and grabbing it and going back upstairs. I performed the action. I walked downstairs. I went into the kitchen. This one got me. I perceived the state of the world around me. When I got in the kitchen, I noticed there was dishes in the sink. Dang, who put the dishes in there? Why didn't they just push them in the dishwasher? We have a dishwasher. Oh, the dishwasher's still going. That's why they didn't put in the dishwasher, because somebody started load and there wasn't enough room and it was already going, so they're waiting for that load to finish before they put that dish in the dishwasher. Why is there mail on the counter? Oh, do I need to look at it? Let me see. What's in the mail today? Bills. I don't want more bills. I don't want to look through it. I put them to the side. Hey, I got some more LaCroix, my favorite drink, by the way. I saw somebody drinking it tonight over there. I go and grab a LaCroix. Before I knew it, I forgot I was even there for the pen. So I walked all the way up the stairs. I'm like, crap, I don't want to walk down the stairs again. But I did, and I remember this time I need a pen, I need a pen, I need a pen. So I went through all this again. By the time I got here, I kept telling myself, I need a pen. So when I perceived the state around me, I was ignoring a lot of it and only going there for that one pen. So that's a quick summary of why we forget things when we walk into other rooms. It's that perception and what grabs our attention versus whether we were going in there was in our short-term memory, whether or not we kept in that short-term memory. Because remember, it's a chunk of information that disappears after a few seconds. So I'm going to go over two examples with you tonight about human-computer interaction. One I labeled the poor design. So this is a picture of my backup camera in my car. And I was going to do a video, but my phone takes too large of videos to email myself to put on the presentation, so I didn't. So I'm just going to kind of tell you about how it works. When I put my car in reverse, if I don't have anything that I'm getting towards in this area, I don't hear any auditory sounds. If I approach something, an object within this area, I hear beep, beep, beep. If I get closer to the object and it gets within this area of the display, those beeps have shorter distances. So I hear a beep, 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 beep. And then when I get to the red area, which I try to avoid because it freaks me out, I hear beep, 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 beep. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop reversing at that point. That's how my backup camera works. One day, I was having car issues, so I said, I'm going to take my husband's car instead. So what I did, I realized that I needed to go to work. I walked out of the house, walked to my husband's car, which is a Prius, unlocked the car with my key fob. I opened the door, got into the driver's seat, started the car, put the car in reverse, saw the backup camera on the display, heard a beeping sound, beep, 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 beep. Looked for the cat used in the display. I didn't see my cat, and we have a cat, and I'm always afraid I'm going to hit it, because I know if I hit it, she's 15 years old, my husband's going to kill me. I didn't see the cat, so I switched between looking out the window, looking out the rearview mirror, and looking at the display for my cat. I didn't see the cat. So I put the car back in park, got out of the vehicle, walked around the vehicle looking for the cat, saw the cat by the front door, and remembered I saw her on the way out. I said hi to her this morning. And then I also remembered that the car's backup camera beeps anytime you have it in reverse, not when you're approaching objects. I got out of the car, got into the car, reversed out the driveway, and drove to work. I saw Shannon. You were nodding your head. Have you been through that before? You have, yeah. You have a priest. Okay, so you know what it is. And check surroundings for safety. Is that because there could be something out there that's not safe, or because you are approaching something not safe? I don't know. So if you look at your sheet, and we look at Norman's 7 stages of actions, do you see anything familiar on that sheet to the story? I need to find my water. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Oops. So plan, go to work. I gave it away, didn't I? My bad. It's that clicker, I tell you. What else? Anything specific that you can call out? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? No, go ahead, go ahead. I didn't know if you're going to keep going. It's good. Anybody else? Keeps going, right? Hopefully I got this all right. I was doing this really late last night. Need to go to work. I had my goal. You're right. I decided to use my husband's car as my plan. I walked to the house. I started performing that plan. Saw the backup camera. Started perceiving the world around me. I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to kill my cat. I didn't want to run over the cat. That was a goal. I tried performing that new goal because, remember, I had my main goal, but then I had a new goal when my going to work wasn't my primary focus. What was in my memory at that point was not killing the cat. So I started performing that by looking for the cat. I'm not going to read all this through to you, but you can see what it is. What else do you see that's interesting on this? I do. I drove to work. But yeah. Yeah, in the 7 stages. So what's funny, I didn't tell you this earlier, I should have, but they don't always have to be in that order. They could bounce around. Like, for instance, if you have your goal, you have a plan, you're going to specify. Specify is coming up with the action, how am I going to do this? But when you're about to run over the cat, you don't have time to think of what I shouldn't do or shouldn't do. You just react. Sometimes when people interact with products and they run across an issue, they don't know what to do. They start clicking everything. Why is this not working, you know? You're reacting at that point. Another thing is, hey, I do have this, if I can find it. Look at this one right here, 15. Switch between looking out the window, looking at the rearview mirror, and display. I've got a lot of visual tasks going on at one point. I'm overloaded cognitively. when you have that, remember we talked about not having more than one visual thing at a time, or not more than one auditory at a time. When you do that, you're prone to making more error. I'm glad I didn't run over the cat, and I didn't, by the way. But when I was doing that, your mind, your body is, you have a harder time meeting that goal when you have a lot going on, as far as tasks are concerned. What makes this a poor design? Yeah. When you think of beeps, what do you think of? Warnings, alerts, exactly. I think of an ATM saying remove your debit card because you left it in here, or you're at the gas station and you forgot to put in your zip code and you hear beep, beep, beep when you're just trying to get the gas to come out, and you realize, oh yeah, I forgot to put in my zip code. Auditory sounds like beeps are usually for warnings, and this time I thought I was being warned about something, but I really wasn't being warned. I was being warned that the car was in reverse, but I don't need a warning for that because I had to put it in reverse, so I know what state the car was in already without the warning telling me. But you also have that beeping sound and trying to look at the rearview mirror or in the display, and then also look in the rearview mirror. When you have that sound happening, that beeping sound when you're just reversing, it's a distraction. It's distracting you from focusing on what you need to be, which is, focusing on reversing and looking at the road. I didn't put it in here. Yeah, you do need to have a compare, but my main goal was to go to work, and I wasn't really comparing about not being at work, but I could have put that in there as I'm not, but I didn't. And sometimes something interrupted the cycle. We had a new goal, so at that point, my focus wasn't on driving to work. My focus was on not running over the cat. But also, there are things, this is just high-level tasks, by the way. There's a lot more that you're thinking and going on cognitively that I didn't write on here. Like when you're looking at steps, when you're planning sequences, sometimes you already have that sequence in your memory long-term because I've driven to work lots of times. And I don't really need to compare whether or not I'm at work because I know I'm at the right building because I've been to that building several days, a long time. But if I'm going to work at a new place and I get to the building, then I'm comparing my goal. Am I really at the right workplace? This is my first day. Am I at the right place? I don't really see a logo on the door. Am I there, Or is it the door next door? It's those types of things. And then I'm going to give you one more example, and it's the defect. I told you I use Instacart. I love it, but I had a problem with it, and I kind of want to share that with you. When you open the Instacart mobile app, it lets you select the store at the top with that drop-down arrow. You can browse. I should say browse, not browser. Browse or search food items. So they give you groups of items, produce, groceries. They give you other categories you can select and look at products under that. Or you can select the search bar at the top and type in a food and hit enter. And then when you do that search, it gives you a list of results based on that search. Then you can go check out, giving a simplified version, by the way. And then once somebody starts shopping for your food, because that's what this is for, is grocery delivery, they're going to look for things that you put in your cart, but if they can't find it, they're going to offer replacements. And these two screens are disabled because this was after I completed everything. But let's imagine it wasn't. And they said, we're out of tikka masala sauce or this one, but we have this one. There would be an accept or reject button underneath it. And if I reject it, I can have the option to replace it with something else. And then if I have special instructions for the shopper, or I just want to talk to her about something they replace it with, I can use the chat option. So one time, I wanted to order groceries. I decided to use Instacart. I opened the app, browsed for my groceries, added the groceries to the cart, selected the search bar, typed the name of a food in there, pressed enter, and I watched the app crash in front of my eyes. I thought, what happened? Was it me or the system? Was it a fluke? So I decided I'll try it again. I opened the Instacart mobile app, selected the search bar, typed the food I was looking for, hit enter. It happened again, then I realized there's a bug in the system. I became frustrated, so I opened the app again. I went and started browsing for that item within their different categories and scrolling through all the food options. And I couldn't find the food I wanted quickly, so I decided, oh, I can go to this website and do a search. So I closed the app, opened my browser, went to instacart.com, logged in, selected the search bar, typed in my food, looked at the results. I selected which food I wanted, added it to my cart, and realized, oh yeah, the checkout process is a lot longer through the browser than it is through the application, the mobile app. So I closed the browser, opened the app, went to the cart, and I checked out. That's not all, by the way. There's more. I started receiving notifications that my food was out of stock, certain items. So I opened the app. I wanted to look at the first recommended item replacement. I selected approve, and then the app crashed again. I blamed the app this time because I knew that happened previously and became even more frustrated. I opened the app, tried to approve the first item again, watched it crash. Wanted to try approving another food item, watched it crash again. I remember there's a chat feature in the app. So I opened the app again, went to the chat, and I wanted to tell them, I approve this, I just can't approve it through the app. So I entered my message, hit enter, and it crashed again. So I thought, did they receive my message? I opened the app, went to the app page, went to the window. I saw the message didn't go through to them. And then I remembered that chat feature's in the browser. So I opened the browser on my mobile phone, went to instacart.com, navigated to the chat page, sent a message, closed the browser, received another notification about a replacement, and then I realized I don't get those notifications and can't approve or deny stuff in the browser. So I went back to the chat page in the browser, messaged them I approve it, and then received a notification that my shopping was done, and then my groceries arrived about 20 minutes later. How many times did I go through that cycle? We're not gonna go through that today. I'm not gonna break that one down. There's a lot of stuff. But now, since you know what the steps are for actions, and you're looking at this, are you starting to see these patterns and how the mind works and how you're always trying to achieve something and achieve a goal, but sometimes you get frustrated, so you're perceiving the state, you're looking at different things. Is it making sense? What are your thoughts about this experience? You just do it, yeah. It's hard to think, what did I do? Why did I do that, right? Because once you do it, the stuff's out of your memory. You're only remembering a few things. You got that experience in your head, but you've got fragmented pieces of it. Which is why when I wrote this, I had to make up a few things here and there to put that picture together of what really happened, because I couldn't remember all the details. Exactly. I wonder how many people put in something, hit search, thought they did something wrong, and thought, oh, I'll try it again later. I don't feel like messing with it right now. Maybe they blame themselves for it, because that's typically what happens. So how can we help people meet their goals? I'm not here to tell you in your role, this is what you need to do to help people meet their goals. I'm not here to do that. But I'm trying to equip you with some tools and knowledge of how to understand how the mind works and how people interact with products on a daily basis. Knowing this, there are some things that I've done differently at my job. One is I try to make sure that when I'm doing new features and stuff, that other people understand how those new features work. We do sprint reviews. And I record those and put those on a wiki page so that anybody that missed the sprint review can go in there and look at it. Because I know that when people in sales are selling that, I want them to have a real understanding of what they're selling and what those features are and how it should be used. And when somebody calls into support because they have an issue, maybe with that feature that I pushed, I want them to understand how it works and have the right mental model that I have about the system, because I know that if I don't share that knowledge, they're going to create their own mental model of how it works. They may be interacting with it and trying to figure out how it works and have a certain thing in their head about it that may not be accurate, because when we create mental models, there tends to be errors in those models. That's one way that I've applied this. Another way is with bugs. You all are familiar with bugs, right? Software bugs. It sucks, doesn't it? I'm a product manager, so I get notified about bugs in the system, and I'm always mindful when I see bugs come across. But when I hear there's a workaround for it, my ears perk up. What is that workaround? Is somebody going through the same experience and the same frustration and having problems meeting their goals like I did with Instacart? Because if so, that's not a good workaround to have, and I need to take care of that as soon as possible, because I know there are people trying to meet their goals that can't. That's a couple of ways I applied it. And hopefully, when you leave tonight, you can start thinking about this and thinking, in my environment, here's the goals that people are trying to reach, and here's how I can help them. Do you have any questions? Nothing? Thoughts? Okay. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me. I put my contact information. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for having me.